This is Ryan Whooper, and you're listening to the Blazers Balcony with Brooke Olzendam and Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to the Blazers Balcony, episode 114 of the Blazers Balcony. I shouldn't point at the camera. That's too aggressive. I am Casey Holdahl, pointing at Brooke and at the camera. That voice you just heard and that visual that you just saw, if I end up using this at some point in time for the visual podcast, is Brooke Olzendam, my friend and coworker in Southwest Portland. Brooke Olzendam, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm back home. If you followed my Instagram yesterday, you know that I won't make it a long story. I could, but I won't. Went to San Francisco to support one of my very best friends, Jonathan Yim. If you guys remember him, he was our video coordinator, assistant coach. I guess the most recent was 5 years ago, and he's now in the G League and has worked for a couple different teams. Anyways, one of my best friends of all time, I flew to SF to watch him ask his girlfriend to marry him with like 40 people there next to the Golden Gate Bridge. It was pouring rain, treacherous, but we were all there in support. And then we went to a lovely dinner after, and I flew home yesterday. Both flights delayed, but I'm not the first person that's ever happened to, so no complaints there. But it was like, I joked about it on Instagram, like I was living the terminal. I lived in the airport the last 2 days, and I got an engagement in between. But it was lovely, and I would do it all over again, and we're so happy for him. And Amanda, his lovely soon-to-be bride. It was great. Now I'm home.
Shout out to you, John Yim. Congratulations. And congratulations to the fiance as well. I did notice, a guy I follow on Twitter, John, PDX Brochelite, he lives in San Francisco these days. Yeah, you know him. And he had posted a video, I assume it's in San Francisco, of one of those double-decker sightseeing buses. Mm-hmm. And, the tops are open on those, and it's just pouring down rain. And it's just and there's people like in a poncho that are just sitting in those things. And I remember when we were in New York this year, when it was snowing, there were also people that were in those double-decker buses, like those sightseeing tours. It's like, how do you, like, I understand the idea of like, hey, we want to go on this tour. It's going to be fun. But once you're there and it ends up pouring rain or snowing or it's freezing and you're on the second floor of a bus that has no top on it, at that point in time, you have to be so invested in like, I am going to get my money's worth out of this. Yeah. I'm just going to do this thing no matter what, because I can't think of a worse way to spend vacation time than sitting on a bus in the rain, in traffic, freezing cold, soaking wet, and seeing like minor celebrity houses. Like,
and you paid for it. Well, you paid money to do that.
the thing is, the paid money for it is the problem, because I think there's some people that they're like, once I pay for something, like I have to do it. I'm the opposite way. Like, I feel like once I pay for something, it's like the money's gone. It's not coming back either way. So why would I put myself through something negative in order to like validate my decision to spend this money? So
I'm with you.
That's how that was my long way to say I noticed that it was raining in San Francisco this weekend too.
Well, what's funny is, so we all got there to hide. We had specific instructions. Yim made like a PDF, like whole thing, pictures, arrows, circles, directions, contact numbers, like very organized, right? And like, it was crazy. Something that I would not be able to do. And so the instructions were to hide, and there are these old bunkers that are now like empty, spray painted, everything. So we hid in one of the bunkers so that when she walked up, she wouldn't see all of us. There's like 40 of us. And so we're hiding in this bunker. There are dogs, there are babies, and and then the babies are crying. So they're showing videos to the babies. So that's another level of volume. It's just very loud. And I was like, is it kind of the point where we're supposed to be quiet here? Like, and I only knew like 6 of the people. I only knew Yim's family and a couple of his close friends, and the rest was Amanda's family. So I'm not going to be like, shh, I'm not going to be that person. But it was just mayhem. Like, I wish we had a camera videoing that whole scene. The reason I bring this up is to your point. It was coming down so hard, and it was sideways. It was like treacherous is the only word I can think of. And I said, if I were Amanda, I'd be like, I'm not getting out of this damn car.
Yeah.
So anyways, we kind of all thought she had it, because again, none of her family is responding to her because they don't want her to think anything's up. And so I think her entire family ghosted her the whole day, which is a clear sign. Like, why is my family not responding to me? Because they're all in a bunker down there. So anyways, I said, if I were her, I probably would be like, I'm not getting out of this car. Why would we go out? Look at this rain. Why would we get out in this? So I have to believe she knew, because I would have said, heck no. Why would we do this to ourselves? But she got out, she did it. We all did it. It was great. And the dinner was fantastic. Other than her uncle's car getting broken into and San Francisco style, right outside, just pop and
bit.
go.
Getting bit, as they say in the Bay Area. So
yeah,
that's how it go. Well, I know that the weather in Indianapolis this weekend also not so great for the 2024 All-Star Weekend.
Segue, Casey.
Yeah, I've been working. As soon as we got to the weather piece, I was like, oh, I know that it snowed in Indianapolis this weekend, so that's where I'm going to take this. Not a whole lot to report for your Portland Trailblazers. Scoot Henderson being the only Trailblazer that participated in events at All-Star Weekend. Shaedon Sharpe was there for the Rising Stars Challenge, which I keep calling it the rookie sophomore game. I guess it's the Rising Stars Challenge. It doesn't matter anyways. But didn't participate, obviously, because of the surgery that he just had. Though I would say a good sign that Shaedon had that surgery last week, and he's already up and around and at least spending some time walking around in Indianapolis. I feel like when Dame had that injury, he wasn't bedridden, but like he was like for a couple weeks, it was like, yeah, I'm really not supposed to kind of do a whole lot of anything. So maybe a more minor surgery there. That's probably not too much to take from that, but you know, if we're looking for things to feel optimistic
well, I wasn't
about.
sure if he was going to go either. I remember the last game before we headed out, I saw Maggie. I was like, I'm going to do a story on Scoot going to the game. Is Shaedon going to watch? Is he not going? I don't want to misreport that. And she's like, no. And he was actually standing right there. He's like, no, I'm going. And I thought to myself the same thing, like surgery is surgery. And if you're up and at him and moving around and flying to other cities and doing stuff and being around people, like that's a great sign. I thought the same thing. So, and the fact that Scoot didn't have, not that he would have been by himself, our PR staff would have been there, his family. I mean, sure, we're there, but the fact that you had
Fernando and Tucker are there.
Yeah, no, I think so.
His team, I know Fernando and Tucker were there. I just wanted to shit out.
Yes.
Fernando
Sorry.
Yeah.
As well, that's like an assumption. I don't even.
We just know that they're going to be there. Yeah.
Well, I'm just Fernando and either Tucker or Tristan will be there, and I don't even think to add them because I just assume they're there. But our PR staff, and my point is that it's nice to have a buddy, you know, like another teammate, and it's cool for Shaedon to, you know, we talk about Shaedon on the podcast a lot, where he's come so far, and like we joke, like he doesn't want to do interviews, all this stuff, but he is. You know, it's part of the game, part of being more social and getting around the league and kind of, you know, showing up and meeting people on other teams and meeting people that work in the NBA. It's only a positive, in my opinion, for a guy like Shaedon to go to something like that, even if he isn't participating. So I think it's just to see the other side, like the business of it all, and then to see other guys on other teams and be social. I think it's positive all around.
Yeah. Well, I think with Shaedon too, it was like, you know, he should have been in the rookie sophomore game last year, and for whatever reason, they didn't add him to it. Then he didn't end up doing the dunk contest. So he hadn't been to an All-Star weekend yet. So I think, to your point, Brooke, part of it was, even though he wasn't going to be competing, was like, hey, we know that Shaedon is going to be involved in this stuff going forward. So let's go ahead and get him some reps in terms of like what it is to be an All-Star weekend, so, you know, the Blazers played on Thursday and then they flew right out afterwards to Indianapolis and were there for Friday morning for media. So a quick turnaround for those guys. But yeah, I know that our staff wanted Shaedon to get there, just kind of get in the habit of being active on All-Star weekend, because I think a lot of us assume that at some point in time, Shaedon is going to be a more active participant in an All-Star weekend than he has been in his first 2 years. So good to get him out there and get him an opportunity to kind of see what it's like and see what the vibe is like. And, you know, no offense to folks in Indianapolis, which is a nice town. And obviously Brooke has affinity for Indianapolis, considering that she had lived there for some time. It gets you ready for an All-Star weekend in that situation. So when, you know, then if it's like in Los Angeles or Vegas or Miami, or, you know, somewhere else where it's a little more warm weather, then you're like, hey, that was easy. Like this is an easy one now too. So again, it gets you those reps, get you those abilities to kind of remember or learn how things work in the NBA. So a good thing there. But Scoot did get to participate, obviously, playing in the Rising Stars Challenge, a team high 10 points on 4-6 shooting from the field and 1 assist, even though his Team Tamika, fell 40-35 to Team Jalen in the first Rising Stars game. So I guess the way they do it, I don't have to guess. Actually, no, I did watch the event, is that they break up the rookies and sophomores and a team of G League guys into 4 teams. Then they do a little kind of tournament play, and then one team emerges victorious. Fortunately, Scoot's team played first versus Team Jalen. Unfortunately, they did not win that game. Jalen's team went on to win, which technically Shaedon was a part of Team Jalen. So I guess Shaedon technically won the Rising Stars Challenge, even though he didn't participate.
That's a bit of a stretch. But
a bit of a stretch. You're exactly right, Brooke Olzendam. But 10 points for Scoot in the Rising Stars game. And then he had a couple days. I think, you know, he did some media events, had the fun Chester Cheetos, Cheeto Puma sneaker event as well. But, you know, just an opportunity to get Scoot out there and kind of get him involved in the NBA All-Star weekend, as well as we had mentioned he had played in other Rising Stars games before as a member of the G League, but being in the NBA, it's a different vibe. Like when you're a G League guy who's playing in the NBA or at All-Star Weekend, I imagine it kind of feels like you're kind of like a little separate from what's going on. Once you're actually in the NBA, you're in the club, like that's a different feel to it. So looked like Scoot had a great time. I know we're gonna have some great footage out of that our video team is working on right now. Probably some of that's going to end up in the trail as well, but a nice little All-Star weekend. And again, the way that it's spaced out this year too, last game on Thursday, Blazers don't play again until Friday, so more than a week off, or at least a week off for an All-Star weekend, which is quite a bit. So, it gives the team a chance to kind of reset a little bit, get healthy. Guys who were at All-Star weekend get an opportunity to actually have a bit of an All-Star weekend as well. A few years ago, they extended it out because what was happening is like guys were going to All-Star weekend and then you get one day off and then you're right back to work.
Wasn't it LeBron folk like base? Like it came from
I think LeBron was like, yeah, hey, I'm doing all these, I'm always at All-Star weekend. I'm glad to be here, but it's not really a break for those of us who are participating in All-Star weekend. So yeah, so I think in the last CBA or just whenever they moved,
he's wrong. I think he's right.
He's exactly right.
It's just like, I think it was, we're here because of him. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, and that's you're exactly right. But it is a good point. The players who the league depends on the most in order to be successful are the people who aren't getting any time off at All-Star weekend because they're participating. So yeah, I think
you don't want it to be like a negative. You're so great, you're going to be in all these events and then you get no time off. Like I understand that.
I think for some guys it got to the point, do I really need to go to my 10th All-Star game, or would it be nicer to maybe spend 4 days at the beach? So I think at that point they were like, well, let's maybe extend this out a little bit, which kind of leads to the topic that people have been talking about a lot. It's just All-Star weekend in general. And like the Eastern Conference won the All-Star game. God, what was the final score? It was like
208 or something.
It's like
208 to 185. I'm guessing.
Yeah, where I wrote it down here somewhere.
It was silly. I showed someone the score and they're like, that's not real. I think no, it's real.
The East scored 211 points. Our good friend Damian Lillard won MVP, which congratulations, Dame. Also repeated as the 3-point champion, as did Mac McClure, repeated as the 3-point champion. No idea who won the skills challenge.
Dunk champion.
Oh, what did I say?
You said 3-point.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Dame 3-point, Mac McClure dunk. So a repeat from last year, which I was there for that one. So I feel like I already kind of got the vibe of this year's anyway, since these things happened. Exactly.
It's like you just repeat of last year, watch and repeat.
Exactly. The hand-wringing that happens every year about the All-Star game, it's like, can we just let it go? It's an All-Star weekend. They're never great. They've become too sponsor-driven, in my personal opinion. Like,
you mean was Starry the sponsor? I wasn't sure.
Well, not so much that, but just it's more like when I first started going to All-Star weekends 13, 14 years ago, obviously the events were the main thing, and there were sponsorship obligations, but they were pretty light. Nowadays, it's like everything is sponsor based. It's like every single thing that you end up doing ends up being something that has to do with sponsors if it's not the actual game. And even the games themselves are pretty heavy with sponsorship messaging. So I guess what I'm saying is that they've never been like fantastic anyways. Like you look at all the other sports too. Like, does anyone care about the NFL Pro Bowl? No,
a lot of guys don't even.
A lot of guys don't even get. They drop out. They get to like the third or fourth guy before someone agrees to go, and now they don't even play a game anymore, which I think is probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah, didn't they do something where like it was coached by the Mannings, and then it was like 7 on, or it was some weird.
I think it's like flag football, or seven on seven, like passing camp type stuff, which also makes sense for football too, because it's like this is a violent sport. Like, or we like.
Let these guys.
I'd rather not get my head knocked off just for the sake of being in Hawaii. NHL All-Star Weekend, like I don't watch a whole lot of NHL, so I don't really know what happens there, but I can't imagine it's all that exciting.
Justin Bieber saying that's all I know.
Hey, and that's right. And Michael Bublé was like, I was on mushrooms the entire time.
Well, I missed that part.
No, yeah. So I'm pretty sure he was like in a press conference where he was like, yeah, my buddy gave me some mushrooms and that he said was a microdose. And I took them, but it wasn't really a microdose. What? And so I was kind of tripping balls the entire time. And I was like,
oh, hilarious.
What? Like, so, I mean, maybe that's what the NBA needs in their All-Star weekend. And that lit up court would definitely, it would
oh my
lean
gosh,
towards that a little bit too.
That court was something. That was just watching from, my living room or my friend's living room. It was, I can't imagine being there, and you'd have to, you really could not be microdosing. I mean, I've never microdosed, but it sounds as though that would be a very detrimental thing at in a place like that where the court itself was just confused, not confusing. It was cool. I'm sure it was great, but like it was a lot. And that's just from watching in your living room. So I can only imagine what it was like being there. So Michael Bublé was not there. He was at NHL and they didn't have LED lights. But that's so funny. You want real quick, Michael Bublé, something that whenever I think of this. He met his wife and she did not speak English. And they started courting and they courted until they got engaged and they still like didn't speak the same language and they still got engaged. Now they do, like she's learned enough English and I think Spanish, maybe Spanish. I assume Spanish. I think he learned, or maybe Italian. I really need to do I need to research this, but they did not speak the same language for months and fell in love, not speaking the same language. And now they like know enough about each other's language where they can, communicate. But is that not amazing? They didn't. Maybe that's the key to love. You can't speak to each other.
It might be, and I think there's probably some merits to that, Brooke. Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, that's why Michael.
The less conversation, maybe the better off a relationship could be.
The happier you'll be.
I could definitely see that a little bit. We'll see how long term the Bublés are able
They've
to.
Had two
kids.
They look super happy, and she's gorgeous. And in pictures they look great.
And then you have Major League Baseball's All-Star Game, which I know they changed that a few years ago to put some stakes onto it, to where now the team that wins the All-Star Game, that team gets home court advantage, or home field advantage, I should say, which is obviously a pretty big deal. I don't know that would necessarily fix the quote unquote problems that the NBA All-Star Game has, which seems to be that, no one plays any defense. Guys just shoot a bunch of 3-pointers. Shout out to Dame for winning MVP, partially because of his.
Are you going to say half court shot?
Well, I mean, that is basically what I was saying, but you added the specificity to it, Brooke, which I thank you for. But it's just an All-Star game, it's an exhibition. And would it be better if it was like an exciting game? Yeah, sure. But I don't know that like fans really care all that much about.
I don't think they care at all.
It's like the All-Star games are for the cities that the All-Star game is in, and and for like the hardcore fans, it'd be nice if they could get some people back in the dunk contest. I think the events could actually use some shaping up. I think they could probably come up with a few more events, and maybe even
Sabrina versus Steph thing was fantastic.
Was great. People loved it, and I thought it was great too. The 3-point contest always endures as like an interesting part of it.
That's my favorite one.
Dunk contest would be great if they could actually get some guys to participate in it again, I understand why guys don't, but I think if, you put some incentives into it, and I think they probably would.
Call back to what you were saying earlier, Shaedon Sharpe. How many tweets did you see? If only Shaedon Sharpe could be involved in this.
Yeah.
Like he will be involved in many a dunk contest, I believe. And that's where I look for. Like I thought it's Mac McClune, right? I always feel like that he has like a rapper name, like Mac McClune. He's fantastic I was watching with a family that's not big basketball fans. They're like, how tall is he? I was like, I bet it's going to say he's 6'2" and he's really not 6. I mean, that was amazing how high he could jump. That guy is incredible. He's listed as 6'2" and he's probably 6 foot.
No way.
But the way that he's impressive no matter what. But I think of guys like a Shaedon Sharpe and like that can bring some fun, crazy. Matt McClune is impressive by just his stature, but Shaedon, I think, can come in and do crazy stuff. And so I think that the dunk contest could be better. I'm always a fan of 3-point, of course. Dame's been in it most every year, so that maybe plays a role. But I think that the dunk contest will only get better, to your point, is if guys want to participate in it. So if we can get there, it can get more exciting. But I think that just adding a few things, some new stuff with the Sabrina and Steph, that was super fun. If they can just I think it's all about the, like you said, it's not supposed to be serious. I mean, are people really tuning in and be like, I can't wait to see who wins this game? It's really going to come down. I hope they run their offense and they press. No one cares. It's just about watching and seeing the guys that you like. So to me, All-Star is what All-Star is, and it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, and again, could it be a better game? Sure. I don't think people are tuning in to your point, Brooke. Like 20 years ago, people weren't turning into an All-Star game to be like, oh, I'm going to see a good game here. It's like, no, I want to see Michael Jordan dunk, or I want to see, I want to see a point guard who's not on the regular team throw a lob to someone who he's not usually on the team with. I don't know. But I mean, they could play like 3-on-3. I think that would work out well. I know people floated the idea of like having a bump competition, which I think would be great. Just like make it shorter too. Like, and that's one of the things too, is that like having been to many All-Star weekends, by the time you get to Sunday night, everyone's pretty much done with All-Star weekend. And the game kind of reflects that. And not only does the game reflect that, but the energy in the arena reflects it as well, because it's like, by that point, you've been to Friday night events, Saturday night events. You've probably walked around the mix zone or, kind of like the convention part of All-Star Weekend for a while. Like, you're probably just kind of done with the weekend. And as far as like the players and everyone else goes, it's like, yeah, like, you're out there enjoying your time off, and, Saturday night hits and you go out and do some stuff. And then Sunday morning shows up and it's like, yeah, let's go play a basketball game. It's like, yeah, okay, I guess we can. But so yeah, make it shorter. Like, play half a game, even. Like, don't play a full 48-minute game. Maybe they don't even play 48 minutes anyways. And also, just don't worry about it too. Like, it's just one weekend. It's not going to make or break the league. If you love All-Star Weekend, keep watching it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. I don't know that anyone cares about All-Star Weekend ratings. So, and it feels like we do this every single year, where it's like, can we fix the All-Star game? What can we do? What we got to do something? It's like, no, we don't. We don't have to do anything. We can just take it for what it is and let it be.
Was it Kenny, or who was it that came out and said this is an abomination of basketball? So I should not have said a name. I don't know if it was Kenny.
No, Kenny's the one Kenny got himself in hot water talking about the Steph Sabrina shoot off.
Yes.
It might have been Shaq. Adam Silver. Adam Silver's quote was like, "Congratulations to the East. You scored a lot of points. That's great, I guess." Like, it was really more like he was like, you could tell he wasn't stoked on it. Understandable, but also, like, again, if you like take off the like, we have to be so serious about this thing and just let it kind of be a exhibition, which is what it is. I don't know. I think it's fine.
I know. I agree. I completely agree. Like, we're trying to make it something it's not, and it really never has been. I think it's more just about getting the stars out there, getting the personalities, having fun. And you see, what I like is watching guys from different teams interact that you maybe didn't even know were friends, like watching them. And of course, I loved everyone kind of making fun of Giannis because he had some sort of sponsorship deal with his phone. And so every time that someone dunked, he was like, whoa, and just taking video. And I mean, I know that's silly, but like that stuff was entertaining to me. Like, just watching Twitter and people, their takes on what they're seeing, and just fan interaction, players with other players, with the guys on TNT. Like, the interactions to me is more fun than anything. The game, I mean, I can tell you the only play I can remember is Dame's half-court shot. That's about it. Other than that, I don't remember anything. And the rest was fun stuff from the Sabrina Steph thing. And then, of course, that turned into, and I love it, people are like, maybe next year Steph and Dame versus Caitlin Clark and Sabrina, or Sabrina and Dame versus Caitlin and Steph, whatever. Like, just maybe evolving this whole idea into something next year. And I'm no crazy feminist, but I think it's really cool to bring a WNBA thing to the NBA All-Star Weekend. It's fun. So I think it'd be great. So I like that aspect of it. And I'm with you. Like, don't take things too seriously. It's the All-Star Weekend. Just have fun with it.
Yeah. And like I said, like, I think they really should consider like getting rid of the game, or just like doing something else in place of the game. So having, again, like playing like half court game, like playing three,
I like your horse game. I like bump. I think bump is where it's at. Horse kind of can drag sometimes. And I think maybe they have tried that at times, but bump is active, and like it obviously, like, it's there's an end game.
Like, So yeah, if you're concerned about NBA All-Star Weekend, is it like it's too high scoring, which again, it's like, who cares? Like, you also, if that game was like 85-82, people wouldn't be like, oh man, that was a great All-Star game. They'd be like, man, what that stinks. Like
defense
anytime there's a game under 100 points, people are like, look at these Luddites, like Cro-Magnon man playing basketball. It's like, yeah, so no one's ever going to be happy with it anyway. So just have some fun.
And then we wouldn't have it. Then we wouldn't be able to say when we're watching an actual NBA game during the actual season, man, this feels like an All-Star game.
There you go. We lose that parlance. Someone think of the commentators. Come on.
When a team has 82 points at halftime, man, this feels like an All-Star game.
Yeah.
We need that. We need to be able to say that.
Well, and I'll say too, it looked like Scoot had a great time. Watching
he always has a great time.
And that's a good point. Scoot's always, anywhere Scoot is, he's having a good time with it. So, but I don't know. It seemed like, he played well in the game. I thought he had one nice little crossover and then a nice little kind of offhand finish, which I thought was great, and got his feet wet in terms of kind of running in those circles with the NBA elite. So shout out to you, Scoot. And Shaedon, hopefully you're able to compete next year in some fashion or another. Ant probably should have been in the 3-point contest, but I imagine, with the injuries and the new baby, that he's probably not too off concerned that he wasn't participating this year. And maybe he turned it down too. It's very possible. I don't know about that either. Considering I think he is one of the NBA's top 3-point shooters this year. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's Mr. Clutch.
And he's super clutch and a great free throw shooter as well. So moving on, something else happened this weekend. Duop Reath getting a full contract, as I think we all knew it was going to happen eventually. I was a little concerned at some point in time that maybe like Duop had maybe kind of played so well that he was maybe going to kind of try his hand out in free agency, which obviously he has the right to do. I was hoping that wasn't going to.
I'd kill him.
Well, and like there's on one hand, like you like the guy and you want him to have success, and when you play well, it's like, hey man, this is your chance to cash in. You've been grinding all these years, like this is your opportunity. And so I could understand if there was an inclination to be like, well, maybe let's kind of test the waters here. But the Blazers did give him a two-way. He's only played in one G League game. He's been a regular part of the rotation this season. He is averaging, I had this up, but then I just put it down. Duop is averaging 8.9 points on 38% shooting from three-point land, or 39% shooting, almost 48% shooting from the field. I swap those. Usually I do field first, then three-point percentage. But the fact that the majority of Duop shots are three-pointers anyways, I figured it makes more sense to talk about a three-point percentages. 3.8 rebounds, 1.1 assists for Duop. Great guy. Again, like gives them a different look at that center position. And so I think even, with having DeAndre and Robert Williams under contract, it's like you feel comfortable giving Duop a contract because it's like, one, he's played really well this year, and two, he provides you a look that neither one of those guys gives you, which is a guy who can trust the floor a bit as well. So really glad for Duop in that regard. And also to the point about, seeing if he was going to hit free agency, according to Bobby Marks, ESPN, the Blazers used 1.95 million of their non-tax mid-level exemption. The Blazers had exemption money left over to sign Duop Reath. They are now 1.3 million below the luxury tax. The Reath first year salary is 5 times more than the veteran minimum with a player having 0 years experience. He also gives some contract terms too. 2024-25, it's a $2 million contract. It's fully guaranteed. And then 25-26, it is $2.2 million, and 0 of that is guaranteed, but it does have trigger dates. So basically, he's under contract for this year for sure. He's under contract next year, guaranteed. And then that third year, it becomes it's options, and you have to, and at certain dates it does become guaranteed. I think we've seen that throughout the years with guys kind of in Duop situation where you want to make sure that they get some money up front, but also kind of on the tail end, you want to make sure that you have some options there as well. So long story short, Duop getting more than a vet min, because I think Duop has played better than a guy in a vet min. Yes. And again, I think if he decided, hey, I'm just going to go into free agency and test this thing out, I imagine that he probably maybe even gets a little more than what, at least according to Bobby Marks, is reporting he's getting. So, and I also think part of that too is he's comfortable here in Portland. I think there's probably a feeling that like, hey, these guys took a chance on me. Obviously, he has familiarity with the coaching staff and the team, and with Matisse, so that's great as well. And he's having a good time here too. So great news. Glad that got done. Obviously Duop gets a little more than just a vet minimum, which is great for him. The Blazers get a guy who they feel very, very strongly about, who's played an important role on the team this year, who can still grow with the team even as a 27-year-old. So great news all around. Great for the team, great for Duop. Congratulations to everybody. And now the Blazers have an open two-way as well, so we'll see if they end up doing anything with that. But Brooke, I know that you're a big Duop fan, obviously, as we all are. So your thoughts on Duop just getting taken care of and getting his first NBA contract?
I was stoked, thrilled, beside myself. I also loved Scoot's reaction at All-Star when he was told the news. That was kind of like, Scoot is us. Scoot is all of us. That's how we all reacted in one way or another. But the story itself, just the story, he could even be kind of a jerk. And the story, his background is just like, well, you know what? He can do no wrong. I will root for him no matter what. He is the sweetest, kindest, gentlest. Like, I think Fernando posted like our gentle king or our humble king. It was humble, but we could throw in gentle, either one. They're interchangeable. But he is just the sweetest, most, like, he's just thankful. He's grateful. Yeah. And so I think to your point about, he could have gone out and looked for something else, but like, there's something to be said for, I appreciate the people that put their neck out for me or took a chance on me, and I'm going to repay the favor. And he's comfortable here. And his journey that has led him to where he is now, that's a big deal to feel comfortable and feel like a sense of family and a sense of community. And that's what he feels with the Blazers. And so I love the fact that it was kind of like, you gave this to me, I'm going to give myself back to you. And, you know, this is, you gave me a gift, I'm giving you a gift. And so I couldn't be happier. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, Casey, even longer than me with the team specifically. And there are guys where you're like so super thrilled for that. You're like, yeah, he deserves it. This one is like kind of for me on another level, just because of the way he got here and how hard he had to work and the sacrifice and the struggle. It's not just like, man, I had a tough upbringing. Then I went to, you know, Kentucky or Duke, and I was the second string, and then I pushed through. This Duop story is on a different level. Yeah. I mean, like, he's dealing with stuff that none of us will ever deal with, don't even know about. And so the fact that he is here and he was given this, I wouldn't even say a gift, he deserves it. Like, he deserves that. It's just, it's all the feels. Like, I was so thrilled. All the things that have happened in the last week. Yes, my friend got engaged, super happy, but Duop Reath, I mean, that's the news of the week.
Absolutely. And it's a testament to, you know, to hard work and stick-to-itiveness and, you know, following your dreams and, you know, just trying to walk the right path, you know. And I feel like that's kind of what Duop's thing is. He's just tried to do things the right way. And, you know, he's having some success now because of it. And also too, just the idea too, that like at 27, you know, to get your first contract, like that doesn't happen very often. And, you know, particularly in the NBA now. I would love
to do some research and find out like I would love to compare it, see if anyone's ever had this sort of path at 27 as a rookie.
There's had to have been curious. Some of them, but probably not a whole lot. And, you know, in the NBA, it's like everything is so focused, particularly for rookies, on like how young you are and like how much time we're going to have when you're at your peak. And, you know, guys who spend, you know, 2, 3, and now 4 years in college, that basically never happens anymore, and getting drafted. And so to be a 27-year-old and to show your value, you know, even as a guy who it's like, yeah, am I going to be on this team for another 10 years? Yeah, probably not. Though, I mean, heck, the Duop's game could age quite gracefully, actually, the way that, that he plays. But just the idea that like, hey, like, I'm good now. Like, everything doesn't always have to be some kind of proposition for the future. Well, what's this guy going to be like in 3 years? And, you know, what's his ceiling going to be? And if your ceiling isn't going to be that high, do we really want to invest the time and the effort into you? And it's like, no, man, sometimes it's just about playing good basketball as a 27-year-old, you know, like, and so I feel like for Duop, it's like, it's nice to see that everything isn't always like, well, particularly for a rebuilding team like the Blazers are. And I think they've obviously shown this with, you know, the re-signing of Jeremy and matching the offer to Matisse, and keeping Malcolm Brogdon around too, that like, yeah, we're a young team and we're transitioning to more of a rebuilding process, but we still want to show respect for quality, you know, like, and people who have shown that they can have success and are good at what they do. Like, we're not going to just ignore that, because what's that going to do for us when we're ready to really compete in 4 years, you know, like, and so everything can't always be like a future play. And it feels like for young players and for rookies and for guys getting their first contracts, to me, the pendulum seems like it's gone too far towards like, well, maybe this guy can be good in 4 years. It's like, well, but is he good now? Would he help your team now? If so, put some value on that. And that's what the Blazers did by signing Duop. So congratulations to him. And again, congratulations to Joe and to his staff for going out and finding a guy like Duop too. You know, like, not exactly a guy who had a lot of profile. It wasn't like a guy who got drafted and then was a draft and stash. Like, they wouldn't found Duop. He'd been in a couple summer leagues, but had never caught on. And the fact that they are able to go out and find him, and a guy who's given them something they need this season, I think it speaks really highly of Duop, and it speaks really highly of the scouting staff.
And two things. I remember us doing this exact podcast maybe a year ago, talking about when Mike Schmitz came in, he came in before that, but he hit one of his focuses, and Joe Cronin's too, because he was asked about it at we have like a pre-season press conference, you know, like to talk to them before the season starts, their focuses, their goals, whatever. And someone asked about international scouting, and is that going to be more of a focus? And Joe kind of like, I feel like lit up a little bit. He's like, absolutely. That is something, and maybe I'm not saying it wasn't done as much in the past, but it seemed as though he was saying like, we're making this more of a priority than maybe it has been in the past. And so that's the perfect example is Duop. Like, that comes from research, that comes from scouting, that comes from guys traveling all the time, finding guys wherever they might be playing in all, corners of the world and saying, oh, wow, there's a diamond in the rough here. So that's not just Duop didn't just fall into our hands, Farndale Laps. Like he was scouted and known about, brought in, and then did better than I probably Joe or Mike even thought he might do. And which is great, wonderful. So I love the fact that like that aspect is showing its worth right now, and Duop's the perfect example. And I'd also like to add, just because I like to add little behind the scenes, behind the curtain stuff, for people listening. By the way, Andy, I remember we were going to do a better job of saying shout outs to people that say they like our podcast. Andy, Mike. Oh no, what was the last one?
Shout out to JJ in New York, Alex in the Jabari Walker jersey, and Lane at the first Timberwolves game.
There you go. Andy was one, and oh gosh, the last one, I didn't write it down because I was walking down to my seat. I usually write them down, but I didn't have a pen or paper. The lovely gentleman that talked to me when I was walking down at halftime. Thank you. I'm so sorry, I can't remember your name right now, but Andy, Mike. Anyways, so the fans that like listen to us, I like to give, and I know you do the same thing, like a little behind the scenes. So for Duop, like here's an example of me walking, and Casey can attest, walking down the hallway. Let's say I'm running after like a Matisse interview pregame, or I got to go. I'm always kind of running around in the depths of Moda Center before games to make sure I get my interviews. And Duop will be like walking out of the weight room or walking into the weight room, and I will run by him. I might not even notice him, like not because I don't notice him, just because I'm like laser focused. And there'll be, I would say more than 3 times in the last month, he'll stop me and be like, Miss Brooke, hi, I didn't see you, so I didn't say hi. I was like, oh, I didn't see you at all. But that is like, he is worried because he thought I saw him and he didn't say hi. And so he follows me down the hallway to stop me to say, hi, I saw you. I didn't get to say hi, but I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you. I'm like, what? Like, it's like the cutest, sweetest thing. I was like, I didn't even see. I don't say that. But I'm like, Duop, you're so sweet. Thank you. Hi, how are you doing? How's your day? Good. Like that's not normal for anyone in any world, but for an NBA player to be like, I'm sorry, I thought that you saw me and you thought I didn't say hi. I didn't want you to think I didn't say hi. I'm saying hi. I'm like, you're so cute. Like that's very special. That's just like his personality.
Duop always makes a point of saying hello. And I would say too, I would extend this out. Like we have a very saying hello team. This year. It's like these guys like are always like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? Hey, what's up?
True.
Like every single guy is always like, hey. Yeah. And you're always like, yeah, hey, how's it going? I appreciate that. So
true.
Congrats to Duop, congrats to its family, congrats to the Trailblazers scouting staff, congrats to everyone. Shout out to you, Duop. Real quick before we wrap up on this edition of the Blazers Balcony, Chauncey Billups, once again up for Hall of Fame consideration as a player. This year, there's 6 players who are up for consideration. Chauncey Billups, along with Vince Carter, Michael Cooper, Walter Davis, Bo Ryan, and Charles Smith. You list off those names, and you feel like Chauncey's got a pretty good chance of getting into the Hall of Fame this year. I think last year was the first time he was up for consideration, didn't get in. I think he's got a very good chance to get in this time. I believe you need 70%. So you have to get X number of votes from like the first committee. Then that moves you on to the honors committee. And then you have to get 70% of votes from the honors committee to then be in the Hall of Fame, which is announced on April 6th at the NCAA Men's Final Four. Chauncey, as I understand it, the only player to win an NBA Finals MVP, or one of 2 players to win NBA Finals MVP who is not in Hall of Fame, which would give you the impression that it's probably very likely that he is going to get him because he does have a Finals MVP from 2004 with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, Chauncey having a very successful career, played, boy, how many years did you play, Chauncey? Played till he was 37. He played a lot of years in the NBA, 18 years in the NBA. Obviously, multiple successful seasons, one championship with the Pistons. I believe he was a 5-time All-Star. Won the J. Walter Kennedy Citizenship Award 2007-08, Sportsmanship Award in 08-09, Teammate of the Year in 12-13, and I mentioned 2004 Finals Most Valuable Player, which is the Bill Russell Trophy. Quite a few All NBAs as well, 2-time All Defensive Team Second Team, and then 1-time All NBA Second Team, 2-time All NBA Third Team. So quite a good resume for Chauncey Billups. As I mentioned, a championship as well, 2004 with the Detroit Pistons, where he won the MVP of the finals. So I think it's very likely that Chauncey's going to get in. Obviously, we won't know until April, beginning of April. But congratulations, Chauncey, on the candidacy. And I imagine that you are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame here very soon.
I don't know how you couldn't, like, just for a few things. Like, it's so I've said this before on the podcast, so I always follow him on the bus because he's my first thing I do is my Chauncey interview pregame. So just for my, not sanity, but just for knowing where he is, it just makes me feel better. So I always take the same bus that Chauncey takes. So I'm following, well, by the way, another behind the scenes, our coaching staff they're very chivalrous men. And there's women too, but they let the women off the bus first. They say women first. So whenever we arrive somewhere, the players get off first, just because, they got places be, so they get off first. Players first. Then Chauncey and the coaching staff's like, ladies next. So we all get off. So essentially I get off, I go through security, and then I kind of wait. And Chauncey goes like, he's one or two after me. And then I follow him. It just makes me feel better. So I follow him to where we're going to do the interview. So I watch what happens when we walk into every single arena, and it is like bees to honey. Like, people are like, Chauncey, like, he is overwhelmed. I mean, that anywhere, but and then we talk about like Detroit and Denver, that's a whole other like level. But my point is, he's so respected and loved like around the league that I can't imagine he wouldn't be this year. Like, the respect is there, like, for his game. Like, whenever I will see someone come up, like an attendant that works in the arena, and they'll come up and be like, Chauncey, wow. And like, yeah. And he remembers, and they have a conversation, and he'll see me, and then he'll say, do you know what a player he was? It's like, I do. He's like, no, he was, and like goes over all his accolades, and like, it was, September 4th, blah, 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 and like remembers all. That's a terrible date. That's not when the NBA goes on, but like January 4th, like when he hit that three, like, there are memories that these people have about his career that everyone has one. And I just can't imagine that he wouldn't be this year, is my point. And I used to work at Fox Sports Northwest, which is now Root, which is ironically the channel we're on. And they also did the Detroit Sports Report. So I covered Chauncey, ironically, out of Seattle when he played for the Pistons. So I like watched every one of his games, not knowing that I would go on to cover him later as head coach. But the player he was, we throw the term around dog all the time. I would say like he's the epitome of what a dog was and is out there playing defense. Obviously that's his pride, he takes pride in his defense, or he did. And now it's like his focus with the Blazers is playing team defense. That's like it's in his DNA. So I guess what I'm getting at is I can't imagine he won't be there. If it's not this year, it will be the following, but his game speaks for itself. And I congratulate him on the nomination, but I really can't wait to say congratulations when he's actually inducted.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, other than Vince Carter is kind of the biggest name and that's eligible for this season. After that, it's Chauncey. So I think that, and how
many players are in? Is it just one? No.
Well, no, there's not like a number. It's just how many votes you get. Like baseball is like that too, where it's like, it's not like there's 10 guys and 5 guys make it. It just depends on how many votes you get from the committee. So it's not like they're competing against each other. I mean, I think in a little way you are competing a little bit, just because it's like, well, who am I going to vote for? But it's not like you have to get this much and these guys don't get it. It's just how much you get. So it's just about how many votes you get from the panel. So,
and does the panel only get one vote?
Well, no, you get multiple votes. And again, it's more just like, do you think this guy should be in the Hall of Fame? Yes or no? And and I think you could say yes to everyone if you thought that, but that's not generally what happens, but that is generally what works. So, and that's going to do it for this edition. Brooke, thank you for doing that. You helped me understand it better as well too. That's going to do it for this edition of the Blazers Balcony. Blazers don't play again until Friday, playing the Denver Nuggets on Friday, and then on Sunday versus who do they play on Sunday? The Charlotte Hornets, and then finishing up a homestand with the villainous Miami Heat on February 27th before heading out on the road for 2 against Memphis and 1 against Minnesota.
No longer a TNT only game.
Just
watch us on Root
Sports.
Exactly.
Watch on Root Sports. It'll be a good time. We'll get some shots in. So for myself, for Brooke, thanks so much for joining us. As always, we will talk to you next week.
Peace out.